Hey folks, welcome back to Bear Mountain. This week we're back in the tunnel again. This time we're planting our greens, our first greens of the spring. And kind of just wanted to walk you through the process, how we're doing this, and show you a little bit about, where things are in the tunnel. This is kind of like think of it like a vlog journey. We're kind of going through and showing you how things are going as they're progressing with the spring. Okay, these are the lettuce plants that we're going to put in and some spinach. Now what we're doing is this time of year we're putting in skyphos, which will be kind of a nice bit of a red. We have magenta, which is also a red. And then we have a romaine type here that has a bit of red in it. I think it's called green, is that one. And then I'm putting some winter density in as well. And these are really young spinach plants and they're about ready to go. I'm really trying to take things at a younger stage so that they, don't have super root bound and they can kind of take off pretty fast. Then the last thing I'm going to interplant with these are just bunching onions or scallions, the early spring onions, just to kind of give extra stuff for the salad, but also kind of to put a little diversity in the ground around them. So these alliums will be interplanted in with our spinach and lettuce plants. So the area we're going to plant is about, maybe a little less than 20 feet long, and the bed is about 3 feet wide. Now I did already in the first half over here where I've got my lettuce plants sitting, already apply the biochar and rock dust. And I applied the rock dust. I kind of ran out of time to put the biochar on this last section. But I'm going to be putting this bucket of biochar here, which is about 5 gallons worth. And it's going to cover essentially this 10 or 11 foot length of bed. So I'm going to put it in at about a 1/4 inch as best I can. And then I'm just going to rake it into the surface lightly and then kind of smooth things out. And then we should be ready to plant. Probably also too, the last thing I'm going to do before I plant is I'm just going to wet the bed down again so that when I dibble into it, it's in good shape. This area too had beans on it. That was the last rotation, were green beans, and then we tarped it, and now this is going to be the first crop on the bed for this year. Why don't you guys leave me alone? You're always there all the time. Just walking down this side of it. This is kale. And it's pretty much finished. We're eating a few leaves off of it. It's kind of getting to the point now, as you can see, it's going to seed. So I'm going to keep a couple of the plants and kind of harvest some seed from it, but I'll be cutting the rest of these guys out. And I'm going to use this kale kind of in a chop and drop type thing. I'll leave some on the area here as a covering, a mulch covering, and then any extra that I get that I chop up, I'm going to be putting down here on the potatoes. So I did want to show you guys that the potatoes are really starting to come up now. You can kind of see through the mulch. I kind of scraped them off a bit, and I'm getting some pretty good germination. The first ones up are the red Norlands, and then the next are the Kennebec. So they're coming up, and my last ones aren't up yet. They're a russet type. But I think they'll be coming along here in about a week or so. So these guys are going to start growing up in size pretty good. So as they grow up in size, what I'm going to be doing is putting rotted hay mulch around them, probably to 2 or 3 inches thick. These were peas we transplanted a couple of weeks ago. They've greened up nicely, and these are going to be snap peas. Bistro is, or maybe they're shelling peas, I get them confused. But anyway, Bistro is the variety, and they're growing pretty well. The lettuce, winter lettuce, is ready to rip out. You can kind of see I've harvested what I can off it. I still have maybe another week left on the spinach, and then that should be ready to go too. The onions have transplanted beautifully. You can kind of see they actually have adapted pretty well. They're all standing up nice and straight, and we're going to do pretty well if these guys are ready for their first fertilization this next week. Okay, one of the things I wanted to talk about here before I planted stuff is you may notice that there's some stakes like right there and right there. And I have one right here, there. And what this is the same bed we did last year with the electric culture beans. And that's why I want to see, so what happens with greens and see if it has any effect on, growth of spinaches and lettuces. They're such a short rotation crop, I'm not sure if there's going to be any major impact or not, but I thought I would compare that to how things grew with my overwintered to see in the earlier stages if I get a better boost. I'll also kind of compare with planting maybe a little bit later. I know that's not as good as side by side, but I kind of want to see what the effect is on how big the plants get and how much produce we get off of it. So I'm going to plant this in 4 rows. You can see I got 3 drip lines right here. The drip emitters are about 8 inches apart, so they don't have to be run that long. When we run it, we typically run it about 20 minutes. I wetted the soil down real good, and so when I use my dibble stick, I'm going to be spacing these guys so I have 4 rows of 18, and then along the outside I'm going to be planting my onions and just kind of a interspersed type look to it. No real exact pattern, a little bit here, a little bit there. And the idea is I want to leave as much ease of getting my collinear hoe in if I need to weed, so that the thing isn't too dense, and just kind of see how that goes. I'm thinking in the past I've really planted my greens very densely in a smaller area, but I want to see also too kind of what it does for productivity of these lettuce and spinach for being spaced out maybe 10 inches apart instead of really packed in there closer to 4 to 6 inches. So I got all my leaf mold soil in here. I brought down a few handfuls. This is the stuff I harvested last fall. Now I'm going to fill this tray with about, it'll end up being about 2 or 3 inches. Good enough that when I stick the seedlings, I stick the seedlings in here, I'll have them a couple inches, and it'll be right up to the edge of the tray. That way I can get a good soak on these guys. Just want to make sure it's mixed up nice and good. And that'll do that. So here it is. It's got it finished. We put the spinach down the center. I didn't have quite enough to do 2 complete rows of 18, but so I kind of fudged the last 6 with some winter density. And then in the outside, I put in the sky fosses and magentas and the breen, which will give us red color on the outside. And then on this inside part over here, you can kind of see I put I just kind of spread out my bunching onions just to be a kind of along the side and a little bit in the back. So overall, this is going to be probably a bed that's going to take, we'll start picking on it, I would hope, in about 3 or 4 weeks. Start taking some small leaves off it and be able to take some early scallions, and that'll keep us going maybe to the end of May. And then the next rotation will be probably back to green beans for canning for the winter time. So here we are the morning after transplant. We're just kind of wrap things up today. They all transplanted pretty well. I kind of wanted to see how they perked up overnight. We had a pretty good rainstorm yesterday afternoon. That's why the audio was a little funky on things, but they all came in through pretty good, and we've got, I'd say they're all perked up and they're all just really raring to go. So the next steps that we're going to be doing on this is we'll be applying JMS microorganism solution with the liquid fertilizer. I'll do that at least probably 3 times. And then at that point, I'm not going to apply any more fertilizer or any more JMS to it. And we'll just see how the plants do. That's then typically what I've done with greens. I like to give the greens at least a good 3+ weeks before, since my last fertilization, before I begin to harvest, because I just want to make sure that I'm kind of far away from that point at that point. And the microorganism solution applied with the fertilizer will just help build up the soil biology. So that's about it. And we should start harvesting. I think I said this a little earlier yesterday on that part of the video, that we probably start harvesting here in about, I would guess about 5 weeks. If it's going to take that long, it might move a little faster, but going to be somewhere in that neighborhood. And this should be able to give us greens all the way into, I would hope we'd be looking at late May, early June, and then we'll rotate this bed out into the next crop, which will probably be green beans again. Did really well here, and I'm kind of thinking that's a nice transition to go to a legume. So anyway, folks, I want to thank you for watching, and stay safe out there. We'll catch you on the next video. Bye bye.